So welcome back to Built Different, and we are in a little bit more of an informal setting on my sofa in my lounge, and I am blessed to have Kez, who is the owner and founder of Zenith Vision, and I want to use this as an opportunity to dive deep into mindset and self-development, identity change, all the things that I talk about, and use Kez as someone that I've worked very closely with, but equally I've seen probably one of the biggest shifts, the biggest transformations I think I've ever seen in anyone over the last 6 months. And it's been an absolute blessing to guide Kez through this process. And I want to do this because it shows people what is truly possible if you genuinely apply the principles that I teach, that I speak about, taking control of your mind, really owning levels of self-discipline, taking ownership of your actions, not playing the victim mentality, not passing the buck on everyone else and blaming your situation. Because we're going to go into this, and it's going to get very deep, but it's going to be very emotional because you have had a background that many people would have never had to even go through a percentage. Like certainly for me, my childhood, like I've not gone through anything like Kez has had. So if Kez can do what she has done from the position she was in, this should give you so much hope for whatever situation you're in. Trust me, it's not that bad. There's always someone in a worse position. I think like you are one of those people that have had it hard in life, but that's what makes this so genuinely inspiring in terms of what we've done. So before I hand over and we'll start going through some questions, just for anyone who doesn't know, like I've coached Kez since 2022. We've known each other since 2018, something like that. So she's been a close friend and she's been a fitness client over the last few years. And then last year, her life really took a turn for the worst. And over the last 6 months, we've basically come to a point where I've been fitness coaching you, but not really. No. I would say it's shifted more towards the mindset coaching. Yeah. And I'm forever grateful for Kez putting her trust in me, in actually allowing me to guide her through this, because it's something so personal. And equally, it's very inspiring for me because it's been the reason I've now got the confidence that I can do this on a wider spectrum with other people, because it's given me the confidence to see what is genuinely possible if I put my mind to someone else's situation and I give my best advice. So that's where we're up to right now. So let's kick off and speak about you when you were younger.
Yeah.
Where do you start?
It's been quite a life, a life. Okay, to be completely honest, I'm gonna find it quite challenging, but I think if we just look at the very beginning, my family as a whole has actually just gone through generations of abuse and normalisation of abuse and neglect. And I'm from a background, and where I grew up was very much around violence, drugs, crime. There's things that I've witnessed, there's abuse that I've witnessed, there's abuse that I've suffered physically when I was a child that I can't even begin to fathom someone else going through that. And it's one of those. So the overview essentially is that there's a lot of physical abuse. There was a lot of physical abuse in my family, lots of violence, lots of drugs, lots of crime. And unfortunately, that did lead to eventually me being taken out of the home. I was moved into foster care when I was about roughly 10 years old, which something that a lot of people don't actually talk about is the transition of going from an environment that you are used to, that you don't realise and you don't even know isn't normal, and
especially
then being put
at that age as well.
Yeah.
That's the real hard thing. And I don't want to interject, but we speak a lot about subconscious, and just to frame this, your mind is subconsciously ingrained from that age. This is where your subconscious is created. So all of this thing, you have had to then carry around for the rest of your life, because. And then how long did you obviously spend in foster? So you were there
5 years.
5 years.
Yeah. So when I moved into foster care, you get placed into different homes, different families, and again, I didn't know that my childhood of abuse and neglect wasn't normal. I didn't know the things that I'd witnessed and that I'd seen wasn't normal.
You only know what you know at that time.
Exactly. So it's such an extreme transition to go from that to actually now I'm being put into a household of fairly middle class, different culture, and I am a child at this point that can barely read. I couldn't read actually. my education at that point, because I'd been in survival mode my entire life thus far, I was really behind my peers in every aspect. I couldn't even use cutlery. That sounds ridiculous, and I'm bringing this up because it was a point that foster care in particular used to bring up all the time.
Crazy.
And it wasn't I went through quite a few placements, and within those placements, a lot of them weren't very informed, trauma-informed. How do you deal with a child who has been in survival mode their entire life and is behind their peers and doesn't have a high level of education? How do you actually deal with that and get the best out of them? Now, I was very fortunate that eventually, after moving through a number of placements, I ended up moving into what I call my foster family, who are still very much present in my life today, a decade after I've moved.
And how many years were you moving around before you found your permanent placement, and how many did you go through?
I think we ended up with 5 placements in total, maybe some extra respites in there. So a respite is just where it's a short period of time.
Okay.
A lot of foster families, say if they're going on holiday, for example, they'll put their foster children in respite whilst they go and have a holiday in Greece. So you get moved from that placement to another one for a short period of time. So yeah, over probably a year and a half period, I was just moving home to home. And then finally, I was meant to be in a respite situation with Andrew and Peter, who are my foster parents. Just incredible people. So they saw me and my brother. We were in respite with them, and they just went, no, these children, they need more care. And they need to feel...
So fortunate. Like, I think that's where like your life started to change then.
Yeah, definitely. They are pivotal in that moment. The stability that I got from being in that household, they saw that we were, of course, behind our peers, but rather than punishing us, rather than us making us feel worse for not being able to do these things and not being capable of doing these things, they brought it out.
Did everything they could to get you where you needed to be.
The amount of extracurricular activities that my foster parents put me into, and Andrea, you are ridiculous. Andrew and Peter, they used to put me in basketball, hockey, we were doing drama, literally the list just goes on. I am dyslexic, and at that point I'm in secondary school. I can't read. I genuinely can't read. And I remember Peter would lecture me, and he would say, just take that book, take yourself in a quiet corner and just read to yourself, read out loud, spend time and you'll get there. And they just sat with me, they taught me so much, but they also gave me room and space to grow myself. And just having people that, one, not offer you stability, they offer you love, they offer you safety.
But it just felt so unnatural to you at the time as well. Yeah. So unnatural, because it's just something that you'd never had any level of experience of. And I don't think it can be underestimated, like, how selfless some people can be. Because to do not towards your own family, like, it takes a certain type of people, and like, it has my utmost respect and recognition to do that.
And they took me on holiday to Florida.
Yeah, you didn't leave your home alone.
They didn't leave us.
Yeah, having a recap, very hard upbringing, childhood, suffered abuse, neglect, all of this kind of stuff. And through that, did you still have contact with your family? Did you have anything ongoing, or was it not until after?
So with just my biological parents, I had a once a month visitation with them, so I would go to see them. At the time, I actually travelled over a 2-hour round trip a day to go to the same high school as my other brother, who wasn't in foster care because he was older, so he remained in the family home. My dad was removed from the family home, so I got to see my brother occasionally. I didn't really get to see any of my other siblings, any extended family, my cousins, my aunties, my uncles, my grandparents. I didn't get to see any of them. But we retained a relationship with my biological parents on a monthly basis, 1-month visitation. When I left foster care, because I moved back in with my biological parents. And
how old were you when you left foster?
14, nearly 15 at that point. That was an incredibly hard transition, incredibly hard. And as a teenager and being a bit more rebellious and all of a sudden having more freedom, and I think my parents, I've got such a fantastic relationship with them now, and I think the amount of change that they've gone through in their own right is inspirational. But if I look back at that period of time in my teenage years, they had an overwhelming amount of guilt, and they were still carrying a lot of grief from what they know I went through off the back of their own hand. And with that said, it meant that in a lot of ways, with my parents, they would do anything that I would ask. And as a teenager, I took piss.
Yeah, because I mean, it was probably an instinct to try and make up for. In their head, it would be making up for obviously everything that's been created.
Yeah.
So like you essentially could do what you want, but that's a double-edged sword because that just sends you even further down a rabbit hole that is not a good one.
Yeah, and I was doing drugs, I was stealing things, I was getting in the wrong crowds, I was doing a lot of wrong things at that point in time. And it was because I had all of a sudden so much freedom. When I was in foster care, I wasn't able to have a mobile phone. The reason being because you can contact your family and then you can essentially run away. So I wasn't allowed a mobile phone. So all of a sudden I've gone from being thrown into extracurricular activities and really growing as an individual from that sense and not having the space of the distraction of the rest of the world. I wasn't allowed to stay at my friend's house because in order to stay at a friend's house, they've got to get an assessment and no one wants social workers in their home. So I wasn't allowed to go out and all of a sudden I came back out into the world and I had just full freedom. If I wanted something, I would get it. And at that time,
That was a dangerous game to play.
It really was.
A very dangerous game.
And I think I was quite fortunate at that time as well, is because that's when I met Phil.
Yeah.
And actually, as part of that transition, when I was doing drugs and being a bit of an idiot, he just said, I don't want to be with anyone who's doing drugs. Yeah. Okay, I'll stop. And then from there, we started to build a life that I couldn't even dream being possible for somebody with my background.
Yeah, a couple of years before, like you didn't even fathom that a happy life with a relationship, someone that supports you, looks after you, like you didn't even think that was a possibility.
Not really.
Because I think that's the real thing. Obviously, I know your story, and I think it would feel so hard in that moment to feel true love, true security. Like you must really struggle to trust anyone around you because of the situation you've been in. And obviously you got a glimpse of that with your foster care, but I can imagine it took so long to build that level of trust. So then obviously Phil, who was to become your husband, I think when you grasped onto that, like I would imagine that he was your absolute like saviour at that point. And I think, you know, we can always look at it as people have partners and boyfriends. I don't think it's classed as a boyfriend in this sense because boyfriend is someone that, you know, you're just with and it's quite low key in school, you're 16 years old, like in a few years you will forget about the name and you don't even know who they are and you only know them because you've got them on Facebook.
Yeah.
Whereas obviously Phil for you was the first person probably in your life that give you what you needed at that moment in time, and you would probably worship the ground that he walked on because he was your saviour essentially. He was your saviour. He
absolutely was. And I think all of a sudden there was somebody else that believed in me and believed in what I was capable in.
Yeah.
And I'm stubborn and I'm determined and I'm ambitious and all of these things that I didn't really identify with at the time. All I knew is I'll just try my best. I'll just try my best and I'll keep being persistent.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. And we went from two individuals. He had some challenges in his life as well. We brought our lives together. We bought our first house at the age of 18. We then ended up upgrading to our second house, which was a 4-bedroom detached house in the Cotswolds by the time we were 22 years old.
Just to frame this, like from obviously meeting Phil, then moving on, like Kez went on to do things that I think were just incredible for someone's background and the hardships that she had. She went on to really climb the professional career ladder, do very well for someone with no academic background, someone who didn't even just struggle at school, like physically couldn't partake at school. There's a big difference there. To then go on to build what you did and become the person that you did. And I think Phil was a huge influence to your own personal development, personal progression. However, this is when we then started working together, like fast forward a number of years. And the thing that struck out to me is before I obviously got to know you on a very personal level, from the outside in, Kez's life looked well, amazing. Like, I didn't know her background at this point. She had a very successful job. Like, I swear, you were getting promotions. Like, I was like, every 6 months, I've been promoted. I'm like, is this girl just chatting shit? Or is like, does she genuinely getting this many promotions? But she was going above and beyond in every career progression. And again, I know Phil on a personal level, and I know how switched on and intelligent he is and how much he would have pushed Kez to do the same. So I think that was a huge influence. But once I obviously got to know you more, it was really apparent that even though you looked very successful and very happy and on the outside, I think you weren't on the inside. No. Like, I think you were still massively struggling, massively carrying the baggage of your past. And we started working together in 2022. And obviously we had brief conversations over from 2022 to 2024, but it was all fitness. I got Kez on stage, we did competition preps, we did photo shoots, she looked amazing. And we did all the things on the surface that you do fitness coaching with a little bit of mindset, very fairness, intertwined, but it wasn't certainly where you were at in life. And to be fair, I didn't have my own knowledge, and I've become a completely different person in the last year. So I wouldn't have ever been able to give you the advice that I can give you now. And then if we just fast forward now, specifically to our last year, because this is just give you a frame of like just how hard Kez had it and just where she has come from. And then if we look at the start of 2024, like that's where things, well, went to rock bottom for you, where the whole rug was pulled beneath your feet and life got even worse.
Yeah. I think for me, I'd spent so many years doing everything and more than I thought was possible. And I was so determined, and I was working relentlessly hard, and I achieved so much. And actually, I did it a lot earlier than I anticipated, and all of a sudden I had everything more than I ever dreamed of, and I wasn't happy, and I wasn't fulfilled, and I was a shell of a person.
Exact story that I tell.
I was exhausted, 24/7. I was exhausted, and every day I'd wake up and I'm like, this is what I need to do. I'd show up, I would do it, but there was zero fulfillment.
Yeah, I think
I didn't know who I was.
Pushing your thoughts and your feelings and your emotion
hiding it
to one side and just focusing purely on
focus. Yeah. Are you ready? Take that as a no. It's not.
Honestly, Joe. We're back in action.
Yep.
Apologies, the battery died. We are now joined with a wild floof as well. She will obviously make some noises, as she always does. So we were basically talking about feeling very unfulfilled, even though life looks amazing on the outside. And I've obviously spoke about this a lot with my audience so far, especially when it comes to moving to Dubai, looking like you're so successful on the outside, building the business of your dreams, earning great money, having a partner, relationship. Everything looks amazing, doing great in bodybuilding, but you just feel so unfulfilled within yourself, and you don't really know who you are, you don't know what your values really are, you just feel very lost in it. The more you chase more, the more it confirms that more is not what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And obviously it's something that I am so passionate about teaching, because I see it so much in the coaching space, especially just because that's where I've got my experience, that people build businesses and they look like they're doing great on the outside, and you speak to them and their head's all over the place, they don't really feel aligned, they're seeing the Stripe revenue going up and down, they're just eternally so, I wouldn't even know how to say it, like scatty, like they just feel never at ease, they can never be present, they're comparing themselves to others, they're just in such a toxic mindset. And it's crazy, because I often think it's the people who are striving to do the most and be the best and have the best life on the outside often are the ones that actually are struggling most on the inside. And that's my big passion of obviously helping people. So going back to your story, this is where you were, obviously the start of 2024, feeling very unfulfilled, but on the surface, earning great money, getting a great role of your job, career was great, had a 4-bedroom house, everything looked gravy on the outside, but it wasn't. So how did things really deteriorate, and what was that turning point like?
Yeah, so walking into 2024, as you've said, from the outside world, there was a perception that I had it all. And in my head, it makes you feel so ungrateful when actually, like I said before, I'd achieved so much more than I even dreamed being possible. And I'm still not fulfilled, and I'm still not happy, and I'm chronically exhausted.
That feeling of guilt
you feel so
That's
guilty.
the worst part of it all,
Yeah.
because you're like, how can I have all this and not be happy? What? And you feel there's something wrong. You're like,
Yeah.
there is something wrong with it. But you do you know what I mean? You're aware of it, but you don't know how to change it because
Yeah.
you don't know where to start.
It's honestly, it's astonishing. And I went into 2024 with this, I need to do something, but I didn't know what, and I didn't know how to guide it. And to be honest, I just kept on operating in a similar fashion and trying to expect a different outcome in terms of how I felt.
Yeah.
And it did start off actually, and this is where Zenith was born. It was part of this initial, I feel like I need to change something, but I just didn't know what.
Yeah.
So for my corporate job, I'm a senior manager in a telecoms company. So incredible role, incredible opportunities. However, it doesn't nurture any creativeness really at all.
So what's the role, without, going into the details, is it a manager role? You manage multiple people,
Yeah.
and that's your main responsibilities, is more managing teams, handling clients?
So it's a very unique role, and it has an element of managing a team and managing the operations within the business, but then there's a large element of strategy and actually looking at change, and not just change within the organisation. I'm talking about change within industry and regulation as well. I'm walking into government buildings with Ofcom. I'm talking to our competitors on a regular basis and trying to lobby with the industry to impact real change for the UK. It's a fantastic position, incredible opportunities. I've walked into rooms that I never ever could anticipate walking into, but walking into them with confidence as well, which is really interesting. In my professional career, I have had that confidence. And it took a lot to get over the imposter syndrome.
I think it's really important to talk about that, because you can be confident in areas of your life. Because this is the thing, like, people look at me on the surface and say, you were at a bad place, Joe. You look really confident, and you can play it off. And I think I often speak about confidence, like it's the perceived likelihood of what you think will happen.
Yeah.
And you can be confident in your industry because you've created a stack of evidence for your career.
Yeah.
You've built your LinkedIn profile, like you've climbed the career ladder, you've done the skills, you've done the jobs, you've managed the people to make you confident, because you're like, I know what I can do, and here's all the proof to suggest that.
Absolutely.
However, that's only one part of your life.
Yeah, and it did not translate across that. And even then, I say confidence and I walk in with confidence, but actually I did have really bad anxiety. I think it's another reason why I was so exhausted all the time, because I was forcing myself to be someone that I am not. And actually, if you think about the role itself is a position where you are constantly challenging and you're trying to impact change in an industry that doesn't want to move necessarily. So actually, I'm in a position where I'm in rooms having to be really strong and challenging with my words and my demeanour and who I am, when my nature is a lot softer. My nature is a lot more empathetic. My nature is a lot more collaboration and creative.
And that's why, obviously, it was just like an itch that you needed to do something.
So it started with me going back to, let me go back to my roots. I love artwork. Let me try more artwork. Let me try to continue with sports. And then it got to a point where I don't have the time or the capacity to focus on artwork, for example. Let me pick up that old hobby that I had, which was photography. So I got my first camera at the age of 15, an old Nikon. It was tiny when I look at the camera that I use now. And I brought the equipment. I started doing shoots, time for photos, so literally just free shoots for people. And it became such an obsession and passion. And
like
all
an
of a sudden, my energy started to come back a little bit, but still not dramatically, still not enough. And this is where I started to transform and have Zenith become a business venture, so away from a hobby into the business that it's now shaped into today. But whilst all of that was going on, my relationship and my connections with the people around me were really not in a good place. And I'm talking about this with everyone, but I also didn't feel connected to myself at all. And I was trying to find who I was, and I was really, I don't know, it was something I was focused on, but I was lost and I didn't know how to do it. And this is when we did the prep for the team photo shoot, which went really well. And again, look at the physique wise, it goes well. I look like I've got it all, but in my head, I'm still not okay. And I just could not grasp it. And then I think where I truly hit rock bottom was towards the end of 2024. And I won't go into any details of what happened, but essentially I felt like my life fell apart. My relationship broke down. Me and my husband actually separated as well. And then from there, sold my house, sold my car. I sold everything, all of what I perceived as my biggest achievement, gone like that. Relationship, my car, my house. And then my career actually started taking a bit of a turn because I was so unfulfilled with it as well. And there was this change in my head of, I don't want to be in this space anymore. I want to move into something else, but I was so scared to do so as well. And there was a point, and I call it a bit of an episode, if you like, my psychiatrist will say this, but it was essentially an episode where I got really suicidal. And I remember a 60-hour period, I had about 2 hours sleep. I was on the phone to the crisis team. I was making arrangements for my dog, my best friend, and that was actually what triggered my best friend to come round, and she's been an absolute lifesaver in a lot of ways, and she sat with me in it. She sat with me when I was in a really dark hour, and there was only a couple of things that were holding me on to just trying to stay.
Not doing something stupid.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
And I think in that moment, because I felt like I lost it all, and I felt like I lost the little identity that I had in that moment as well. And you witnessed some of this you were still my coach. So it started off with I don't feel like checking in right now. I'm struggling, I can't.
I didn't know the depth of what was going on. And I think just to frame this as well, for anyone who can relate to this, often when you see the biggest change, because I class that day, that time, that week of your life, that was the turning point where ever since you've got stronger every single day since. You've had your good days, you've had your bad, but that was the turning point.
Yeah.
And I was the same. I got to that point last year where I was like, I lost everything, my identity, self-structure, moved out, split with my girlfriend, like all of those things. And often I think you have to hit rock bottom, and you have to see that there is literally only one way. There's no way out of that point. Like you can't physically feel any worse within yourself.
Yeah.
The only way you can do is feel better. And I want to frame this to anyone listening that you don't have to get to that point.
No.
And that's the thing. Don't feel that you have to get to that point. Everyone always says crisis, something rock bottom is the biggest turning point of your life, but it's like, it doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to wait for it to get that bad to do something about it. Like,
Great.
You can do something about it way sooner. And I wish I would have known that. I wish I would have knew that so much sooner, but that's the way it translated. I think when you hit that rock bottom, you're looking for any glimmer of hope anywhere around you, and that's why you find this next chapter, and that's why you rebuild yourself. But it doesn't have to be that way. From my perspective, at this moment in time, we were still purely fitness coaching. It was very much a client-coach relationship. Of course, we had a good friendship behind the scenes, but I always distinguish client-coach relationship with friends like very clearly. Like I don't like to blur lines. However, obviously, you get the sense. Kez went from 60 kilos down to 51, 52 kilos. Like her body weight was just, and I was
in
like,
6 weeks.
Yeah, in 6 weeks. Like it was
That's
awful.
Stage weight as well.
Yeah, it was awful. She looked ill. She looked how she felt, and I come to the point where I was like, we need to do something. And Kez actually came to me, and you'll probably remember this, and she's like, I don't think I'm going to carry on with coaching. I'm just not in the headspace where I can follow a diet, follow a training plan. And I was like, with all due respect, I completely understand that viewpoint, and I'd probably say the same if I was in that situation. However, what value I see in the fitness coaching, and this is before we get into the mindset, but just in establishing what you can, is control the controllable. Like, just control whatever you can, because the way that fitness got me through my hardest times was, if you have a little bit of control freak in you and you like control, and then you lose and give up everything, like, you feel even more out of control. So I think you have to find the smallest thing, even if it's so minute, of being able to be consistent, of getting your steps and having 3 meals a day, which I think was...
We got to basics.
Yeah, it was stripped it to basics. It was like,
control
control what you can. Like, I didn't give her a meal plan. It was like, just control what you can, because I wanted her to just actually be able to something to latch on, like something to keep you on track, keep your head in a good place, and just keep you some form of structure and consistency, because your life was falling apart. And it was like, I need to keep some discipline here, because that's what's needed. And you then said, oh, I'm going to leave, blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, I think you need to do this, but let's flip the script, because I don't feel like I can provide value with fitness. Like, I require you to be consistent.
Yeah.
You're not in a position to be consistent. You've worked with me for 3 years. You know how to follow a diet plan, training plan. Let's actually just start speaking about your mindset, your job, Zenith. Let's actually just start treating this as more of a mindset coaching.
Yeah.
And the only reason I had confidence that I could do that was because of the shift that I'd gone through 6 months prior to that. And I was still obviously on that self-development path myself. I was always learning. And there were so many frameworks and books and principles that I could implement with Kez and also pass on to her for her to go away, read resources, come back to me. I probably sent you so many books and podcasts and hammered you with so much content to consume and watch because she had to have that raising of self-awareness to some extent. And it was a few weeks down the line, and at the start, like, you couldn't do anything.
couldn't
like
do it.
you were such a shell of yourself that no matter what I tasked her to do, she just didn't have the mental capacity or capability to do it. And every week we'd turn up a check-in, you'd send me like a 10-minute voice note of all the reasons you couldn't do the things, and I had to say the same thing again, and just drill it. And eventually there was just glimmers of hope, but it was so testing for me because I was giving everything to this person of, I want you to do everything you can to change. And it got to the point where I was like so close, just being like, you don't even want to change. And there was times I had to be harsh, even though I knew how much you were struggling. It come to a point where I could only be nice for so long and like supportive, and it was like, I need to change my stance and tactic here because this isn't working. Like me just playing the nice guy.
I needed the directness.
Giving you the awareness, like giving you the tools, giving you the words of encouragement. And I think it got to the point where I was like, this isn't working, so I need to be very direct. And I literally sat you down, I was like, you do not want to help yourself. I know you're in a bad place, I've been there before myself, but until you want to help yourself and until you believe in yourself, and I think that was the start point of you transforming, because the thing we hung on to, and I think for anyone listening, in order to transform, there's one underlying principle, which is the root of all self-development, and that is self-love and self-belief. And I don't mean that in an airy-fairy sense of, oh, I love myself, I'm amazing. It's believing in you. And
the evidence to back it.
My job was like, I've got a girl here who has done incredibly well in bodybuilding. She's had an incredibly difficult upbringing. She's then gone on to do incredibly well in her career. She's got so much going for her, but all she ever does is beat herself with a stick. All she ever does is put herself down. So I was like, in order for her to gain confidence, I see confidence in a very systematic way. I go, okay, how do I build a stack of evidence to say what I believe you can do, you believe you can now do? So I start pointing out all of these things and reinforcing your beliefs of going, look at how good you are. Like, not in a fucking blow smoke, it's just factual evidence where you've not put the dots together. You haven't thought, oh, like all of these things coincide, and actually I am better than maybe I'm made to believe. And obviously that is such an important part, but it's such a transition that like it takes so much time. And even to this day, like both me and you are still building ourselves in terms of self-belief. But I think until you had belief in yourself, like you couldn't do anything. And I think that's what I learned from a coaching standpoint towards mindset. Is like I could teach all the frameworks, all the principles. Nothing would work until, one, you were problem aware, you were aware of what needed to be changed, but you had the belief that you could change it. And I think once you have them two things, it's all good and well talking about routines and discipline and emotional control and all of these things, but I think that's the real core that is the catalyst that allows for the development of oneself. So we then obviously speak about the transition, I think, of like the timeline of, you know, you have gone from there, absolute rock bottom, to where you are now in a really short space of time. And we can finish by talking about how good you feel now within yourself, which is the best part of the whole story. It's the happy ending. But let's talk about the period between then and now.
I think during a lot of that time, when I was in a really dark place, and when we talk about coaching and where I couldn't show up, in my life at that point, I was holding on by a thread, and I was trying to still manage, still going to work. And Zenith, I had clients. I still showed up, and I look back at some of the behind the scenes, and I don't know how I was there. I don't know how I was present in that moment, but I was.
Body, but not mind.
Even the team shoot. I was in a bad way still when we did the team shoot in October. And I think one of the pinnacle moments of change came as well alongside all of the resources that you sent, alongside your change in how you were dealing with me in terms of that being direct. I also went through a bit of a health scare. So a lot of things that kept me grounded was looking at what is the one thing that I can still be grateful for? My health. But all of a sudden, over that 6-week period, I'd lost so much weight. I was not eating at all. I was not sleeping. 9 kilos on my frame is pretty dramatic. Like I say, it was my stage weight in 6 weeks. And we spent, 30 weeks in a diet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 20% of your body weight.
Yeah, it was quite dramatic. But then also, I think my body was so out of sync that I also had a scare in terms of breast cancer, potential breast cancer. And at that point in time as well, I wasn't speaking to people. I wasn't telling people. I think there was 2 people that knew about my breast cancer scare after the fact. So Phil knew, and I told you. And at that point, I was like, holy shit. The last thing that I've got was my health, and I am literally letting it deteriorate in front of my eyes, and I have control of that. I don't have control of what happens to me. I do have control of how I handle it. And I think with all of the resources to become more self-aware, and The Body Knows the Score, that book, that helped me massively, because that talks about children who have gone through abuse and how their brains are wired differently.
Yeah, I remember.
And that was a game changer alongside a lot of the other resources that we went through at the time. So I think that's probably the moment where everything shifted dramatically. And I felt like I could start showing up again. But as I was still running off, little to no sleep.
Yeah, because that was
I
a
was
huge
out of
thing for you. Like,
alignment.
you couldn't even sleep to
I
escape
could not
it.
sleep.
Like,
I was terrified
you were
of
having
sleeping.
night terrors, and that was
Sleep
another thing with
paralysis.
sleep paralysis. Like, it was really a tough period of your life.
I don't think I mentioned it. I was diagnosed with PTSD at that point. So before that, my only other diagnosis was anxiety before that. It wasn't this episode that I had when I saw my psychiatrist about it. That was when I was diagnosed with PTSD. And I couldn't rationalise it. I couldn't understand how have I got PTSD now on things that happened in my childhood when I've just spent the last decade growing and building something completely different. How am I now being pulled back into almost like a childhood state?
And I think, again, like, me having the level of knowledge I hadn't been able to educate you at that point of, like, thoughts are the language of the mind, emotions are the language of the body. Like, Kez's emotional state, like, she still had all of this emotion, these neuropeptides ingrained within her. Every cell of your body is chemically induced with emotions of the past. And that's how we don't just think about negative situations, but when we think of them, like, we feel them straight away, and it's why they're so hard to escape from and undo, because they're not just in the mind. It's not undoing the mind, it's undoing them from the body as well. And I think giving people education, this goes in anything in life, like, if you can raise their awareness and they can assign meaning to the tasks that I'm asking them to do in terms of the practices that we'll run through, it just holds so much more weight, because oh my God, this is really important. So I am then going to carry out this task to a higher degree of accuracy. As a result of that, I am going to change faster. And it was a case of, like, how fast can we get that feedback loop going of just learning new things, learning, implementing, and that's what it became. And obviously I had no frameworks in place. I was, like, making it up as I go along and thinking, what did I do? And then how can I then apply that, even though you were completely polar opposites to where I was, the same principles still apply. And I think this, obviously, as a frame, was how bad Kez was. Like, that's what we've covered up to this point. Now I want to be a little bit more positive as to what can you do, or what frameworks can we implement to actually get you out of this point, and what did we do with you? And I think I probably wouldn't have articulated it at the moment, and I probably didn't know what I was doing. I was making it up as I go along, because you're the first guinea pig of doing this sort of stuff. But I think now I look back, I always see it as 3 pillars. And I think the way I define self-development, and I think what we have done with you, is identity change, which is rewiring of the subconscious mind through different principles. And I think it comes down to 3 key pillars. One, which is, like, emotional regulation, like how to regulate yourself on an emotional standpoint. And, like, having impulse control, because you were going to get triggered throughout this journey of development and how can you rationalize your impulses? How can you control your emotions? We have like your routine and your sort of productivity when it comes to work, when it comes to Zenith, like actually being the person that you want to become, like embody the person that you want to become, not the person you are now. Don't think about that. Who do you want to become? Let's start acting like that person. Fake it till you make it. I think that's what I'm a huge believer of them, because if you just embody that person, you will become that person. And then discipline. And then that was the final thing. And if you can build those three things of emotional control and regulation, you have a bulletproof routine, and you're always productive, and you are disciplined enough to carry out everything. Because self-development is obviously a very extreme case when it comes to just how ingrained her subconscious habits and beliefs were. With that being said, it all revolves around one thing of being routine and discipline. I think it's said it's about 6 months for people to have identity change and rewire the subconscious, because when you have had your subconscious thoughts, like it's said that we are around about 95% how we think, how we feel, how we act, our behaviours day to day is driven by subconscious state. And that is predominantly ingrained with us from childhood, because our brains run in a certain brainwave frequency. I think it's a theta brainwave state where we're suggestible. We listen to things in our environment as a child, and everything goes in without any filter. It just goes in and embeds within our subconscious identity, and that's who we become. And unless we reach a point in our life where we actually actively try and change that by what I call brain training, actually trying to change it with intention, you will forever be that person. And you can't break free of that unless you actually do things to do it. It doesn't happen by chance. Your brain is a ridiculously intelligent mechanism, and you can't just consciously go, oh, I want to change, like a lot of people do. You have to treat it like a job. It is, and then this is what I talk as, like you have to treat this with a ridiculous amount of routine, discipline, turn up on the days that you don't want to, understand you've got to overcome tests, like it's not always going to be easy. You've got to remain grateful and grounded. You can't be envious of people around you. Everything that Manifest taught me, but how do we actually break that down into physical frameworks? And that was the goal for me, of how can I use these three pillars to essentially create a framework of giving actionable things to do on a week-to-week basis that I knew would get you to where you want to be. There's so much in this process. I don't want to go, I could talk all day on this type of stuff, but I want to like maybe say three key things that stood out to you that we implemented throughout this process that you thought what that give you maybe the most impact and that helped you the most, whatever that may look like.
Yeah, I think there was a couple of things. One thing that I needed to do was become present in the moment. I was constantly living in the past and the future. I was never present in the moment, which made my connections with people suffer massively. And it also, I think...
And just to elaborate, how in what way? Because I know what you mean by that, but maybe people listening don't.
So,
because what I'm getting at is like when you speak to people, when people aren't present, they won't recognise that they're not present. But I think the easiest way to identify is you can be having a conversation with someone at work, someone at the gym, and
I'm not there.
You're there, you're having a conversation, you are miles away.
Miles away. I was never present and engaged, and I think this is another reason why I struggled so much with connection and connecting with people, is because I was never really present in the moment, and I had no idea how to become present.
Because when you're in that constant state of stress, which you were I don't think the word stress does you justice of like how bad you were. Like you are not present. Like your body, like on a biological level, high cortisol, high adrenaline, you are thinking of danger. Like you are in fight or flight mode. So you're not thinking, oh, I have this lovely conversation. You're thinking, shit, like I need to get out of this environment, and that's what your body on a biological level is saying.
I used to say I've got high functioning anxiety.
Yeah.
I will still do what I need to do.
Function, yeah.
And I will function and I will get everything done, but I'm in a constant anxious state. I'm constantly analysing and worrying and focused on anything but the present moment.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because I was having this conversation with Hattie the other day about how I was so anxious all the time, and I don't know at what point it changed. I can't pinpoint at what point it changed, but now I think
it's hard. It's just transitional.
Yeah, and I go about my life now, and I've had a few moments where normally a situation happens and I'm like, I should be so stressed right now.
It feels
But I'm not.
confusing. It feels confusing because you're so used to like being highly strung and stressed.
Yeah.
Like I came back from Bali a couple of days ago. I told you the story, and like Connor, who I went with, we're late for the airport on the way home, and like he was pulling his hair out. We literally got to the airport an hour before,
Yeah.
and the gates were going to close. So the check-in desk was 6 minutes off closing, and I was like, yeah, we're booking a flight. And I was sat there messaging, doing some voice notes. I fell asleep. Like I was not bothered. And he was like, how are you built like this now? If I can't control it, then why would I bother worrying about it? Like it's just control the controllable. And that's literally what it comes down to. And it sounds so simple. It is so simple, but it's why ingrained within you. It's, if you can't change it in that moment, why are you wasting your energy worrying about it? Such simple advice, but it's like a game changer.
Once it sticks, but obviously like your body has just been programmed for 25 years of my life.
But how liberating does it feel when you're like, oh my God, I should be so stressed and I'm not. Like, this is great.
I've had so many moments where I'm like, am I feeling okay? Because I'm just so calm.
It's amazing.
It is, and I think that has been one of the biggest transitions, is that anxiety.
To be present.
Yeah, and the ability to be present in that moment and actually just enjoy people's time and their company and seeing. I've always been quite fairly good with people in terms of interacting, but in terms of how I'm perceived. But in my actual mind, there has always been chaos going on. And now to not have that noise and be able to just connect and engage with people, it's been such a game changer. And I think the ice baths definitely massively helped with that. I think self-awareness.
She's a fellow ice bath, absolute manic now. Loves it. But no, it's.
I think that helped with my sleep as well.
Yeah, and I think just before, because I think some people are resistant to, I'm going to get in freezing cold water. I don't feel present. I just want to get out. Like, it doesn't help some people. And I think the real take-home message for this, because it wasn't just ice baths for me. When I look from the outside in, I think everyone needs to have periods of their day on a daily basis, not just once or twice a week, where they can escape and come back into the present. And we are living in a society of a high perpetual state of stress. We are constantly pulled into the past. We're anxious about things in the future. We regret things in the past. We overthink. We worry about what. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess. Like social media and like, it's such a high functioning state of society. Our brains almost weren't made to be functioning so quick and taking on so much information. It's like an overload, and we don't know how to like handle the instrument that is our brain. And I think if you can do the simple thing of bring yourself back into present, and I think this is where it doesn't matter how you do it, it's just having something every day that you can. So for me, for example, looking on the outside in for yourself, ice baths of course helped. I think Zenith, having that and reigniting your creativity, and again, it doesn't mean you got to fucking take up videography, but it's finding something that you're so passionate about. And if you question, I don't know if I'm present, the best way I can say this in terms of application is do something where you get lost in time, and within that time you don't know where the hours go. That tells me everything I need to know. That tells me that I'm very present in that task, because it's like the clock is on fast forward, and you are so present in that time because you get lost in the work that you do. And if you can find tasks where you get lost in the work you do and time just elapses, that is so like just good for the soul.
It's been incredible.
And then the gym, keeping up your training, that's an escape for you. Obviously affirmations, I know you went through a phase of journaling, of reading, like all of these of these different things, development practices revolve around one thing, bringing you to the present.
Hercules. My time my time with my dog, and at the moment I'm on screens 24/7 all the time. Always on a screen, looking behind a camera, and having my moments of just having a coffee in the garden, switched off from technology, just being present with Hercules, going on my lunchtime walks with him.
Could not agree more.
Oh my gosh, there's daily practices now that are so ingrained into my routine. And one thing that I will say, which I find incredibly strange now, is there was a point in time in my life, for 25 years, I could not be in silence. I could not be alone with my thoughts. I always had something playing, whether that was music, whether it was a YouTube video, true crime, whatever it might have been, there was always something playing in the background, even to go to sleep. All of a sudden, now I crave that silence, that peace, that moment of reflection and present moment with
There's no greater evidence or sign of alignment of I'm finally who I was meant to be. And that's what it shows me. Like, you can cut out all the noise and you just feel so at ease.
Yeah.
And it's so liberating. And I was the same with Chai. Like last year, like she was genuinely my saviour. And every day that I did gratitude, no matter what was going on in my life, how good or bad it was, the first thing I would always come to mind, not even selectively think about, it would just be the first thing that popped into mind was like, I'm grateful for Chai.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful to have her in my life. Like, she's helped me more than I can ever explain, because it just gave me like a level of responsibility. It got me up in the morning to take her out.
Yeah.
It's boiling hot in Dubai and I have to get up at daft o'clock. I have to get up and take, like, she was, just everything last year.
Yeah.
Not that I don't care about her now, but yeah, she was an absolute superstar. So that's one thing, obviously bringing you back into the present, I think was a huge thing that we did, in giving you the frameworks and the practices and like emphasising the important, educating you around that. Any of the other two, I think.
The other self-awareness, so understanding, and self-awareness and compassion for myself, because I think I have been so critical. No one could hurt me more than I could hurt myself. I knew that for a fact. And I was so critical. And it's funny because I look at, if anybody else came to me with any of the stories that I would have for myself, I would never, ever talk to them or treat them in the way that I would talk to myself. And I think when I started getting more self-awareness, and again, The Body That Knows the Score, that was a really insightful book to help me not only realise that now, okay, I'm not broken, I've gone through experiences which has shaped my mind and my body to respond in this way. Getting that self-awareness and that understanding of why I might react the way I do when I am triggered has massively allowed me to bring myself back after a trigger and bring myself back to, realignment. What am I focused on? Who do I want to become? How do I respond in that way? How do I act in the way of the person that I want to become rather than what my past self would have done? And the self-awareness has been the biggest attribute of change, because it allows you to realise I'm not acting in the way that I want to show up. I'm not acting in the way of who I'm inspired by, which is the future version of me.
It's getting beyond the ego as well. I think that's what it comes down to. We all are ego-driven individuals to varying extents. And I think, when you can actually separate from that ego and have the awareness of, this is what one part of Kez, negative, anxious, because these things are still going to come up, and that you can't ever escape that. But it's like having the confidence that you now have the frameworks and the methods to go, oh, I'm aware of why I feel that way. Okay, why do I feel this way? If I feel this emotion crop up, what's the reason? What are the thought processes that have led me to feel this way?
Yeah.
Okay, what can I change about that? What can I control? What variable can I change? What system can I implement? How can I bring myself into the present? Okay, I've dealt with that, I've journaled on it, whatever it may be, put it to one side and I can move on.
Yeah.
So I think self-awareness is, in any part of life, is the key to, if you want to change anything. Even if you've got a business problem, you're like, okay, where is this business going wrong? Oh, is it in my lead generation? Okay, let's look at my marketing strategy. Let's look at the content. Let's look at my hooks. Oh, it's a sales thing. Right, okay, look at the sales script. Am I addressing my client's pain points?
Yeah.
It's a delivery problem. I've got high client churn. I've got client dropping off. Okay, let's obviously look at my delivery system. Can I have more engagement with clients? Can I deliver better? What's my onboarding process? Like, this is how my brain works in terms of address the problem and fix it. And you have to be aware to address any problem in any business, any life, and obviously, as we are speaking about now, personal development.
Yeah.
So it's amazing to hear that. So those two are actually amazing. Becoming present, self-aware, and then anything else that you would. I think for me, that if I was to give you one, the one thing that stands out for me is you've always been disciplined. I think you've always been that, you've bodybuilding. I think emotional control, like, I know you get triggered now because we still speak about it. There's some things at work and situations, going through obviously the divorce that you've been going through. You're currently transitioning to move into Dubai. You feel anxious. You get yourself in states of stress. Yeah. And this is a testament to the person you become. Like, you're now creating a life that you built a business in the process of going from where you have. Who'd have thought like you'd build a business, then be looking to move to Dubai, leave your full-time job and security, and have the confidence to do that. So coming back to the third point, I think the emotional control, where you can now just completely control your emotions. And that for me is the real power.
Yeah, massive, because it makes you feel like you can do anything, because you start to trust yourself and you trust your instincts. And I've never had greater alignment with who I feel I'm meant to be. And again, I look back at my career and where I got to, and I'm like, now that's not me.
Yeah.
It's not never
It's amazing, and I think I speak from experience, like coming from a personal career and doing everything that I've done. It gives you the skills, it gives you the traits, it gives you so much of a foundation, and,
Yes.
and obviously you're so grateful for that. But at the same time, it's like it serves its purpose to an extent, and it gives you the tools. But now you need to apply these skills where your passion is, and it's helped bring that passion to life because you believe in yourself to be able to do it.
And I believe in that vision.
Yeah.
And there's so much that goes into this, but if you look at the business that I'm creating and the lifestyle that I'm trying to live or align myself to, it's completely different to the one that I had. And it's completely different to the society norms that you've been taught your entire life.
Yeah.
And now, again, I'm going back to the UK. I need to leave for my flight, actually, in a second.
In literally
In
now.
a minute, in a moment.
15 minutes ago, she needed to go.
I needed to go and catch my flight back to the UK.
No, you're all right at 12:30. You got 10 minutes. 10 minutes, you'll be fine.
Okay, but anyway, going back to the UK. I'm handing in my notice for my full-time job tomorrow, which is just...
It's so cool, honestly, for me to see. It's so
It's been
inspiring.
incredible.
And I've had to give her shoves and give her the reassurance because, of course, she's not mentally bulletproof now. And
No.
I think this is the beauty of self-development, that is not an end point.
It's a lifelong commitment.
I am not perfect. I had a very stressful day yesterday. I had to really fucking dig deep to rely on myself. But there's nothing better than just knowing whatever life throws your way, you've now got this toolkit and a mind to handle anything. But I just genuinely want to thank you because you put so much trust in me when at the end of the day I'd done it myself, but I have no ability to coach other people through this process, no experience. I'm making it up as I go along and guessing, and it's so nice for me to see that people genuinely put the trust in what I do, and that has given me the ability to now create a business around, just like Zenith was for you, something I feel so passionate and so aligned around, where I not only am helping people mentally, but I'm helping people build businesses that they feel aligned to and not burnt out in the process and not getting caught up in chasing the things that everyone chases, which is just client numbers and revenue, and not really knowing why they're doing it, never knowing who they are and what's the why. I can't even begin to say how passionate I am about that, but I wouldn't have that without having done what I've done with you.
Yeah, and it's hard to articulate just how much you've helped. It's really hard to articulate it. The reality of living that story and day to day and actually having you there, and not only supporting from the fitness side of things, the mindset side of things, and the business side of it as well, and actually having somebody else look in and believe in me when I was at rock bottom and I didn't believe in myself was critical at that point. And also having someone to say and be a little bit harder and not just agreeing with me, because it's very easy for people to look at my situation and go, no, it's understandable why you feel like that, so just sit in it. But what's the use in that you're not going to change anything by constantly just sitting in your own, I'm going to call it self-pity, that's probably the wrong word, but you're not going to change. And having everybody around you just validating that constantly, it's not necessarily a good thing.
Makes it worse.
Yeah, and I think you found a very good balance in terms of empathizing with the situation, but also being direct and being powerful with your words.
It's logical. You need to do X to get Y.
Exactly. And that is something that is just invaluable. I don't know how to
the crazy thing, until we had this conversation last night, which triggered us to do this, we didn't actually plan to do this podcast. I didn't realise what an impact it'd have. There was times where I was turning up at check-in and I'd even say, because I'm used to being the fitness coach of changing diets and changing training, I'm like, I feel like I'm not doing my job here.
You did say it in a few voice notes, and I feel like, no, you've changed my life. Frankly, you've changed my life, and it's something that I can say now. I'm 26 years old. That I'm so glad at this point this transition has happened, because now all of a sudden
so many happy years ahead of you.
Yeah, I'm going from a point of literally being suicidal to all of a sudden looking at the world in a completely different light and being so incredibly grateful and I hate the word grounded, but grounded and present, and I look at the world completely differently.
Yeah.
And again, there's so many things day to day where you look at it and you go, that's frustrating, that's stressful, that's irritating. But now it just goes over my shoulder and I can just focus back into what I think is important. I can focus on my vision, focus on who I am, focus on what I'm trying to achieve, and ultimately who I'm trying to be.
It's amazing. And people think the whole visualization and manifestation of it's all airy-fairy. We had this chat
It is
last night.
airy-fairy if you don't take action.
Yeah, and it's nothing to do with airy-fairiness, like sitting and just waiting for things to happen to you and thinking, like, it's having that vision and aligning your actions to do that. And it's if you can block out everything else and just focus on that, like, you will get there. It's just a matter of time. And I think when you get to that point, I think this is when, for me, listening to you, I was like, she's really changed now. It stopped being language of if something will happen, and it was a case of when. And like when you hear people speak in that dialogue, it's not a case of, oh, if I'm gonna bring Zenith to life, or if I'm gonna move to that. It's like, when. And I had to force that into you. I was like, when? No. You were like, oh, I'm gonna move, and I was like, when? Like, no, when?
Don't care when the timeline is, but give me one. When?
Yeah, that's the thing, and that's what I had to drill into her.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a really inspiring journey, and obviously one that I can't wait to continue on with, you know, our friendship, partnership. But equally as well, I think elaborating on that, like, this is a continuous, like, I believe Kez has now had the identity change, as we call it, the real paradigm shift, where she's been able to undo many of the horrendous things that have happened in her life and now learned to view them through a completely different lens, has developed a better relationship with her family, parents, obviously now in a better place with career, aligned with herself, relationships around her. And I just don't think you can put a value on being happy in your own head, waking up in the morning and just feeling good. Yeah. Wipe away Zenith, wipe away relationships around you, wipe away everything you've built. The most important thing for me in this last year, and I know you agree with this, is waking up in a headspace where you are just so happy to be alive. You're grateful, you feel good in yourself, the quality of your thoughts are just good. Like, the proportion of positive to negative is so in the favor now of positive. And if you can curate and change the quality of your thoughts, you will change your life. Yeah. And for me, I'm still going to be pushing her to do more. Like I told her last night, I was like, she keeps telling me like problems that she got. I'm like, meditate, and she hasn't done it yet. Like, she's trying, but she can't get herself into that state. So we've tweaked some things and changed the meditations, and I'm going to be helping her through navigate that and try some different things, because at the end of the day, meditation, as I always explain, like for any self-development, is probably the most powerful tool. Just we resonate of hypertrophy of muscle. We go to the gym, we grow a muscle. Yeah. You will be able to control your life so much more if you control your mind and you train your mind. And if every day of the week you go into the gym, but it's not the gym, it's the mental lab of training your mind, and learn to further emotionally regulate, because that's the kind of, I would say it's like a spectrum of emotional regulation. You can go from having something negative in your life to flip it into a positive, but that might take you several days. But what I want to do with the people that I work with is get them to do it within a matter of minutes or seconds, where you're triggered and straight away, bang, you're back in the room and you're back to an emotional baseline. And I think meditation is the gateway to do that. So what I'm saying is she's got a lot of work to do.
It's funny because it's so incredibly exciting.
Yeah,
I think it's so exciting because this feels like just the beginning. I feel like I've barely even scratched the surface. But then when we actually do a reflection, it's been such a dramatic change. It's so strange.
We are in May, and we started this process after summer last year.
Yeah, August. Yeah.
From September to May, it's literally been 9 months, and in that time, like, she has come on probably more in 9 months than she has in 26 years of existence. Yeah. So it's like, this is an exponential. And the thing that excites me and anyone listening to this is if you really overcome that and you're disciplined with it and you start to see life through this lens, it's like, where does this end? Like, how good can we develop ourselves? How well can we create our thoughts? How happy can we make ourselves? How fulfilled? How much time can we spend in these high vibrational thoughts as opposed to anxiety, self-doubt, comparison, never feeling good enough, all of this? Like, how long can we spend in joy, inspiration, feeling excited, feeling grateful? If we spend all of our waking hours in that, like, you change your life. Like, it's that simple. So I hope you found this useful, and I hope this gives you a really good insight in terms of what is possible. And if you are someone who wants to grow the business, but you're doing so, and you might have already done a good job up to now, and you are really struggling to feel fulfilled in what you're doing, you're really struggling to feel aligned, you feel like you're constantly firefighting, and no matter how much you progress your business, it's not making you any happier, it's just making you feel more burnt out, more stressed, then please just reach out. I am more than willing to jump on a call and obviously help you out and just give you an insight in terms of what I think needs to be done. Because honestly, we can both hand on heart say this is the best journey you will ever go on. No money, no fame, no likes on social media will ever come close to this. And for those of you who are about return on investment, if you are operating your business from the best possible place, from alignment, from being in a good place yourself, like, of course your business will grow as a natural byproduct, because you are the one, you are the driving force behind it. So thank you so much. If you don't know where to find me, the link is in the bio, and I'll see you in the next episode.
That's good.
Good. Need to go.
It's a good job that I'm not stressed anymore. I missed my flight.